you can, and you'll be able to do that by going to our website at embeddingthriveability.org. So welcome to this very first Embedding ThriveAbility virtual event. And my name is Sheila Cook, and I want to introduce you to who the other members are of the Embedding ThriveAbility Consortium. And so you see me over here on the left, and my husband Christopher Cook, and then Robin Wood in France, and Ralph Thurm in the Netherlands. So the four of us, you'll be hearing from each of the four of us today. I'm going to begin by giving you a very brief orientation to the tool that we are using today, which is called Adobe Connect. And so you might like to laugh or applaud at some point, or say yes or no, and there's a way for you to do that. If you look at the very top of your screen, you should find something that's got a little top logo, and then the word meeting, and then over here a person raising their hand. Click on that emoticon. There's a pull down menu to the right of it. Click on that, and you'll get a nice pull down menu with emoticons. And I'll be asking you from time to time to give me a green check mark to let me know that you're finished doing something. So I'd like everyone to give me a green check mark now, so I know that people have found the green check mark. Good, we're seeing some green check marks coming up on the attendee list. And so once again, how you find this is go up to the top here. You don't want to go over to the PowerPoint, but go up to the menu and click the little triangle to the right of the person with the raised hand, and you get this nice drop-down menu. And it looks like a lot of people have found the green check mark, and so I will move on to the next thing. We'd like to encourage you to chat during the session, and how you do that is there's a chat pod right at the bottom here, and insert your cursor right into the white strip at the bottom, and right now type a little message, say hello, give us a greeting, and we want to make sure that everyone knows how to type chat. And then the step 2 is click the send message button. You'll notice there's a little balloon for you to do that. You can also just press the return or the enter key on your keyboard. And I'm happy to see so many people joining us from many different countries today. And I encourage you to, as we go along, type in comments and type in questions. And Ralph Thurm will be monitoring our chat today and keeping up with your comments and questions. So our agenda today, we're going to be exploring how ThriveAbility can be embedded anywhere by anybody. And this is intended to be just a taster. You're just getting a smattering of the information that's available. And so our agenda is to do a check-in and find out what brought you here today, and then start to understand a bit about what is ThriveAbility, what we mean by ThriveAbility, and then assess your organizational readiness for ThriveAbility, and then an invitation to the Embedding ThriveAbility Consortium and to our next event in Amsterdam, and then a discussion about next steps that are possible. So let's begin by finding out a bit about you. So we have put here 4 questions, and these are different kinds of polls, and just go ahead and respond to these. These are all anonymous. And what we'd like to know is, what part of the world do you call home? And number 2, what is your arena of work? Number 3, what's important to you about being here? And number 4, what is the big question that you are here to resolve, either for yourself or for your organization? And when you're finished with those 4, please give me a green check mark by going up to that emoticon panel at the top of your screen and letting me know that you're finished and ready to move on. Yeah, so you can actually type your answers right into the white strips below each question. And if you're having trouble getting the screen, look for an icon that's the Adobe Connect icon. It's got a white background with 3 green people on it. That's how you'd find it in your tray or your dock. And it might be lurking in one of your web browsers if you've somehow lost the visual. The other thing you could try is just closing applications until you find the one that the meeting room is in. So if you could unmute Robin, please. Christopher's acting as my producer here today. So Robin, it looks like we've got a lot of independent contractors here today, and we've got people from a variety of places, a lot from the US today. I think this was timed well for the US. And under what's important to you being here, there's a lot of curiosity, connecting with others, learning, a lot of learning about thrivability. And the big
Indeed.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it does look like a great deal of curiosity, essentially, which is excellent because this is a very new space that we're opening up, and an exciting space as well. But it's very complex, so we're going to be challenged in the next hour to really give you a good overview of what thrivability is.
And something I forgot to mention is if you can't see the entire pod or one of these boxes, you can find scroll bars on the right that help you scroll up and down. And then on the bottom, you can find scroll bars that help you scroll right to left. And that will apply later on as we move through the session today. All right, I think we are ready to move on to what is thrivability, and we're going to hear from Robin Wood about that.
Thank you very much, Sheila. I'm just going to make sure I can establish my cursor here, and I wonder if you could, yeah, there we go. Give me the arrow just so I can make sure I can actually move the slides backwards and forwards. It does look like, it doesn't look like I've actually got control here. So I may have to ask you, Sheila, if you could do the advance for me.
Oh,
For some reason.
Robin, you should have the control. It's on the lower left, where
Yep.
do you see those arrows at the bottom?
Yes, it's not responding. So I suggest
Okay,
we just let Chris
I can do it
for
for
some.
you.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much because it's all right. So well, welcome everyone, and I notice we've got a number of people that we've met in the course of our travels, Chris, Sheila, Ralph, and myself. So welcome to you, and also welcome to the many newcomers in this call. And it's the world's first Thrivability webinar. We've held a number of conferences and events and workshops, but this is the first webinar. So please bear with us as we get used to the technology. I hope all of you have managed to check into the actual room so you can hear us via the telephone. And so let's begin with this picture, which is really reinforces the why for all of us, I would probably guess. All of us on this call are deeply concerned about what's going on our planet as a result of our actions in the past century or two. And we feel in many cases, sometimes in over our heads and quite desperate, because we've probably all been engaged in some kind of change and transformation activity over the past few decades. Yet we've just had the world's fastest winds of up to 380 kilometers an hour in a typhoon, which managed to probably 10,000 dead, millions certainly displaced. And the very sad part of this is that the gentleman who's representing Philippines at the COP19 in Warsaw this week, Yeb Sano, has, if we could just move on to the next slide. Thanks, Sheila. Sheila? Hello?
Yes, so I've already moved to the next slide. Is it this slide that you'd like?
Ah, sorry, I've got something coming up on my screen here, which is I can't see the slides.
Huh. What do you have on your side?
I have the call-in numbers.
Okay.
Slightly strange, yeah.
You should be
There
able
we go.
to
That's
do
good.
that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, excellent. So yeah, so we have Yeb Sano, who's representing the Philippines at the COP19, who a year ago they just had another typhoon, not quite as severe, saying he's not going to he's going to stop eating basically until they reach some degree of progress. And of course, there's no guarantee that this COP will achieve anything more than previous COPs, if not just slightly incremental returns. So if we could move to the next slide, please, Sheila. You know, where we came from in terms of thrivability was I've been doing a lot of speaking recently at conferences and attended quite a few of the UN COP consultations and been working in and around WBCSD and other kinds of projects. And the frustration is that it's become clear that although sustainability is a wonderful thing, and you can see the sustainability pioneers at the top of this slide, from Schumacher to Laszlo to Ray Anderson to John Elkington, and John has been working with us a little on this. And it was in John's own words. He said, you know, he coined the phrase, the word, and the phrases associated with it, sustainability, 40 years ago, to get business thinking about the environment. And he said to us in our last seminar, he said basically, we're stuck. And even his book about zero emissions, zero this, zero that, it's essentially not a motivator. So instead of just being less and doing less and consuming less and shrinking our way to greatness, which is obviously impossible, we have to take a very different approach. So thrivability is based on that insight. And 2 years ago, I gave my first speech on this topic in Tallinn in Estonia, and it received a very good reception. So we've been holding a number of events in different cities, from Helsinki to Paris and down here in Perpignan. We're going to be running this event in December in Amsterdam, another event in London next March, another event in Berlin, and then an event in Istanbul. So this is beginning to spread. In the center of that picture, you can see the people that attended the very first seminar, in fact, earlier this year here in Perpignan. And a number of the other people on that slide will be familiar to you, including Richard Branson and Jochen Zeitz. So if we can move to the next slide, please, Sheila. Thank you. So where are we today? Well, we are in the bridging zone between an old era that is declining and where we are entering the exit turbulence of the chaos. In fact, I would say we entered that exit turbulence at the beginning of this millennium, and 9/11 was a very good marker for that. And we also have been seeing a new era emerging over the last 30, 40 years. It was started out being a bit hippie-ish and new agey, to be eco-sensitive, but these days it's become mainstream. The challenge we face, though, is that we don't have a lot of time. And so how do we accelerate the transition from an age driven by fear, fossil fuels, materialism, and all the things that we find so evil about our current economic paradigm, to an age in which we have a thriving circular economy powered by care, renewable energy, and conscious enterprise? Now, there is available to us thought and practice leadership right now to accelerate this shift. And what we've been doing in the ThriveAbility Consortium is an integration of all of the best tools and methods out there that we believe are going to help us make the difference. And you'll see that as the next transition on the slide as Sheila clicks that through for you. Sheila, could you? Thank you very much. And yes, we're experiencing a slight delay in cyberspace here, I think. So there's the thought leadership curve. And the key about this curve is it's not about talking at people. It's not about telling them how it is or what to do. We're focused on beneficial human emergence and how we can scale that up through the ThriveAbility model and the ThriveAbility Consortium. So let's move on to talk a bit about that. And I want to ask an important question at this point. Having said, well, you know, if COP and all the other governmental negotiations are just taking way too long to get to a solution, then, you know, what's in it for business? Well, let's look at what's in it for business. Over the last few years, doing my research on this, I found numbers indicating we have a solution in every single part of the economy to the challenges we're facing. And it's probably worth about $1 trillion in terms of business opportunity right now, and that will be $10 trillion in 2050. So it's up to business to really grab hold of this, not as a shrinking their way to greatness exercise, but essentially as a dynamic, bold, courageous move. And it's something to be excited about and proud of. And we are showcasing many of those companies that have achieved that kind of result. Often in the case of many of them, charismatic leaders have started the trend, but effectively this can also be done bottom up and middle out, depending upon your organization and its unique characteristics. So let's see what we can do here. When I started talking about ThriveAbility, I've been saying, what can we learn, number one, from sustainability? What is it that is working in sustainability? Let's not throw that out. But what is it that's not working in sustainability? And the number one thing for me and for most of my colleagues has been the fact that sustainability does not motivate people. It does not get them excited. It's an ethical, good thing to do, but this doesn't drive radical shifts. It drives incremental, very risk-averse change, and it's not going to be enough. So we've got to add to sustainability innovation. Where is the innovation? Where are the disruptions going to come from that are going to make a complete difference to the outcomes that we're facing at the moment? Let me give you one example. In Puma, a number of years ago now, Jochen Zeitz started his first impact analysis and came to understand that the cow was the biggest single environmental impact in Puma, the leather industry. Now, that led to them being, well, starting several years ago now, but being halfway on that journey to replacing leather in all of their products with nanoparticle materials or any other kind of material that had the same performance but better environmental impact. They're now going to apply that in the carrying group to handbags and all sorts of other products. So it didn't occur as a result of an incremental shift. It was an aha moment for Jochen as he talks about it. So where are those ahas? How can we get them in all organizations and get people excited about this? Which brings us to the third part of design. Design is really critical to this. We have to get people to say, wow, I want one of those. I want to design, I want to build, I want to consume, I want to use one of those products or services that you've generated there. That's so sustainable, but it's not because it's sustainable. It's just you've come up with a really exciting concept that makes my life a whole lot better, my job, my work, whatever better. And then the final piece is the application of the insights from psychology. So we've learned a phenomenal amount about the human psyche in the last 40 to 50 years. And what we're doing in ThriveAbility is applying that insight to what motivates people to change and transform in beneficial ways. Now, that's all wrapped up in a package which is led by two different pieces. The first piece is leadership. So, Sheila, if you could do me a favor and just move on to that's it. Thank you. So leadership is really the central discipline to pulling this all together. And on this call, we've called this call How Anyone Can Embed ThriveAbility Anywhere. It's basically true. We can all and we must all be capable of embedding ThriveAbility in every decision we make personally, in every decision we take in our family, in our community, and in our organization. It's not something you can do in one area of your life and not in others. It's a way of living, it's a way of thinking, a way of being, and it's contagious, because what's great about ThriveAbility is people see that you're stoked, that you're motivated, you're inspired, and that has a ripple effect throughout an organization, rather than being those deadly, boring, ethically superior CSR people or sustainability people. So finally, of course, we have to bring strategy into this, because there's just no way you can lead this ad hoc incrementally. You have to have a corporate strategy that delivers a series of pathways. And what are those pathways? How are we going to evaluate which of those are better options than others? Well, let's move on to that next slide and talk about that for a second. So when I talk about ThriveAbility as a way of being, a way of thinking, a way of making decisions, there are 5 critical ingredients to that way. And the very first is an insight into the human being. Where have we come from, not just as a species, but in your organization? Where have the people come from? Where are they at in their journey? What's important to them? What are their priorities? How are you going to actually engage them? That is the #1 complaint we hear again and again and again from CSR and sustainability folks, is it's easy to do all the program and all the other stuff, processes, all this fairly mechanical stuff. Getting people engaged is the hard part. So we need the tools and methods to do that. And that then creates new possibilities which were never accessible before. The second piece is that we've got to actually personally, again, in terms of our families, communities, and organizations, think through the implications of our lifestyle and our creations, including new products and services, new infrastructures, whatever we're building in our organizations. Now, the third piece of this is we put that in context of a series of North Stars, which talk about the carrying capacity of our world. I've deliberately left some things blank here because I'm going to come back to what's missing in these pieces, because a lot of sustainability people so far would say, well, you know, I kind of do those 3 things already. But in the center of this diagram, we have a word which we modified slightly, responsibility, which means not just taking responsibility, but making responsibility. In other words, empowering others in your organization and around the organization to actually take responsibility. And if you could put that up, that'd be great. Thank you. So there we have responsibility. And part of that responsibility is a commitment to innovation for Thrival, because if we're happy to just incrementally tinker with the existing order of things, we're going to fail, and we're going to fail big time, both as an organization, and the result of that will be well, pretty catastrophic for all of us. So let's move on to look at now what happens when we have responsibility in an organization. Firstly, we have an awareness of the footprint and handprint of our lifestyle and creations. We've been very good at measuring things in the last decade or so and building footprint analyses of all kinds of impacts. We've been less good at understanding what is it that people can contribute and inspiring them to make their contribution. That's what we call a handprint. The second part of this is what we've been missing in the last decade or two with sustainability is the idea of flourishing. We've talked about carrying capacity limits the growth endlessly, but what we haven't done is talked about our capacity, our deep resourcefulness as a species to create flourishing environments even in the most difficult of circumstances. And that's what we want people to think about and to do in our organizations. The final piece of this, excuse me, is what we call collective intelligence. It's building the predictive models using big data and everything else that we have in and around our organization to transform the possibilities on the left-hand side that we identify and inspire into probabilities that are investable in, that enable us to transform to a conscious economy because investors and because banks and because everybody else says this is the best way to go, this is the intelligent option, we're going to take this and we're going to put our money there. And that's starting to happen, but it's still tiny relative to the weight of the money in the markets out there. So let's move on from that to the next slide and talk a bit about breakthrough, because breakthrough is a central concept in ThriveAbility. And really, nothing much can happen without it. Why do I say that? Well, first of all, we're pretty much in a risk-averse incremental mindset in most large organizations today. There are some leaders who've stuck their neck out and actually said, like Paul Polman, I'm committing to doubling our turnover while halving our impact by 2020. And indeed, Paul has admitted he's going to need a few miracles. He's going to have to pull off a few miracles in Unilever to deliver that. But he stuck his neck out. Ray Anderson did the same thing in Interface. And, Zeitz did it in Puma, and we've got hundreds of examples of Branson and so on. But let's go beyond those organizations. Those are organizations where the person at the top pretty much could lead the show. How do you do this in an ordinary organization where there isn't a charismatic leader? Well, we've got to be able to measure. That's the number one thing we have to be able to do, to go from the current state to the goal state here. To get big changes, we absolutely have to be able to measure. So we have a ThriveAbility equation, and a ThriveAbility equation contains a breakthrough factor. And in the breakthrough factor, we're talking about a numerator that says how many disruptive innovations are we and can we deliver in our organization. And that's divided by the rate of adoption. So we're looking at how fast can we actually get this out into the marketplace, and how many people will take this up. We've got to cross the chasm, because a lot of these products and services never make it across the chasm. So that's the first thing. And then the second part of this is that, Sheila, if you could just move that next text, thank you very much. We're looking at basically companies need to put their eyes up a little bit and focus on the business ecosystem and global issues. Looking just at your industry and benchmarking your industry or your nearest competitors is not good enough, because a lot of the innovations, more than half of the innovations, are coming out of other industries. They're not even coming out of industry at all. They're coming out of socially entrepreneurial startups or the not-for-profit sector. NGOs, many NGOs are working with corporates to bring new ideas and fresh thinking to what they're doing. The second piece is that we've got to master transformational change, and that involves getting to an understanding of people deeply into their motivators, and being able to predict the outcomes with greater degree of precision is really important. We've talked about business cases. We've got to move beyond hopeful business cases to business cases based on real, in-depth data, and that's part of what the ThriveAbility Consortium is about. So let's move on from that to the final two slides here. And what I want to say about these is, first of all, that this slide is a pretty complex web, and it's evolved since we began ThriveAbility. This is our first seminar, beginning of this year, to include just about every player that is actually measuring anything of significance in terms of what we call our ThriveAbility equation and the ThriveAbility model, which we're briefly explaining to you today. But we actually have a whole lot of mathematics, and the mathematics is designed so we plug the data in and we get a number, which is called the Global ThriveAbility Index number. So it's essentially an amalgamation of the dozens of different indices, from well-being to, let's look at the Happy Planet Index, for example, the New Economic Foundation, the Social Progress Index, dozens, there are in fact 6 of them out there now, including a UN index. How are you supposed to know which index to use? Well, the answer is that requires an integration. Similarly with everything from the WBCSD to the GRI to fair trade to circular economy, there are very different standards and models being applied. Which one do you use? It can get very confusing. So one of our goals is to integrate across these and create a standard that becomes a global public good, a global ThriveAbility index. And that is the North Star for which all our efforts can move toward, and which we can use to coordinate our other stakeholders in our business ecosystem. Because often the transformative change isn't in our company, it's somewhere up the line or down the line in the space around our company. So finally, let me just say that on the next slide, we have 8 topics that we cover in the ThriveAbility workshop. And what we're going to do today is Chris and Sheila are going to talk a bit about beneficial leadership and basically cover the ground of how do we assess whether our organization is ready to tackle this, or where is it in this process of the ThriveAbility journey. And then Ralph is going to lead us at the end into an exploration of what is in these other 7 boxes here, and why are they important, and what will you actually learn from attending a seminar, and hopefully we'll be able to wrap this up and you'll be feeling slightly wiser and hopefully a little more inspired to keep on doing what you're doing. So thank you very much to all of you for being out there and doing what you're doing. And I look forward to meeting some of you eventually.
Thank you very much, Robin. For our next session, what we're going to do is have you assess your organizational readiness for ThriveAbility. And you can see that I've got 7 questions there for you. What we'd like you to do is respond to the questions in the context of your organization and ThriveAbility. And if you're not working for a specific organization, in other words, if you're an independent contractor, then respond in the context of one of your clients' organizations. And when you're finished, please give a green check mark to let us know that you're ready to move on. Thank you. To wrap up. Okay, it looks like we've got everyone who's going to participate there completed. I'm going to move on and help you see what the results were. So most people chose between 6 and 17, and a score of 6 to 17 shows that the organization is making minor adjustments. that reinforce the present paradigm and may actually restrict the movement towards thrivability. And two people said 18 to 24, and this would mean the organization is conscious of the need for thrivability and is attempting to respond to the known need to change, but has not yet found the ways and means to discern and resource the move towards thrivability. And we didn't have anyone who scored 25 to 30, but that would be a rapid learning stage where the organization is demonstrating a high degree of adaptiveness in its attempt to move towards thrivability. And the test will be its long-term impact on the psychological and biological well-being of all life. And so with that, I'm going to turn this over to Christopher, who will speak to us about organizational readiness for thrivability.
Thank you, Sheila. I'm always delighted when the data tells us that we're in the right space, and my conversation around readiness for thrivability pathway builds upon what you've heard from Robin about sustainability plus innovation, but takes us a stage further to look at one aspect of the design and psychology that's behind our work. So I want to take a look at beneficial leadership design awareness that underpins embedding ThriveAbility. It's a design awareness that enhances readiness for this thrivability pathway. Einstein reminds us that we can't solve problems by using the same kind of thinking that we used when we created them. The design of the thrivability pathway is informed by integral psychology. Research over the last 50 years has been highlighting the patterns of the emergence of increasingly complex thinking as spaces, waves, or stages. We are just not yet utilizing these new capacities for greater complexity. The change in the mind has already happened, though, and we are just learning to utilize it. Beneficial leadership utilizes a complete or integral awareness of all capacities. Research has clearly highlighted the conditions that lead to more complex thinking. There are known to be 6 conditions to simulate the transition to more complex thinking. These conditions inform beneficial design and beneficial leaders in their strategies for design for thrival. The first condition, condition 1, highlights the utilization of the latent capacities to lead through increasing complexity. This is the essence of the thought leadership of which Robin spoke about. Today, the dominant latent capacity is known as an integral awareness. Wilbur highlighted in 2006 that it's a new day, it's a new dawn, it's a new man, it's a new woman. The new human is integral. The whole thrivability journey has been created to keep our minds open to our new thinking that is now emerging naturally. The second condition for change highlights, as with all change, that there is a need for some energy to make the change happen. The growing energy over the last 50 years has been the energy to overcome the problems that we've created for ourselves. In 2007, Jared Diamond warned us that we are 7 billion people attempting to live a first world lifestyle that consumes the resources equivalent to 74 billion persons. Today, we are nearly 8 billion earthlings. Conventional human consumption exceeds the carrying capacity of our planet. Quality of life is unevenly distributed. The ThriveAbility vision creates an invitational space. By 2213, the carrying capacity of the Earth far exceeds human consumption is our vision. Quality of life will be exponentially increased for everyone. This is a pull from an inspiring future. It is the primal energy for all human change. The third condition is that solutions that we apply work and are beneficial to all life. In this ThriveAbility journey, we seek to compress time to bring beneficial breakthrough solutions that outperform the present paradigm. The ThriveAbility journey is about breakthrough solutions in all contexts. Factor 100 change is our benchmark, building upon what is known but not generally applied. Carbon in soil, a great indicator of soil vitality, is one area of breakthrough thinking that will impact on everyone's life. 20 tonnes per hectare is now being achieved without chemical fertilizers or pesticides that normally achieve only 0.2 tonnes per hectare. Why should we settle for less? This is idiocy. One example of many innovations where the change in thinking has already happened and is evidenced by a new breed of ecological technologies. The fourth condition is that we derive insights into new ways and means, and this is achieved by stepping over the line into an integral frame. And in this space, there is a growing awareness of how all life works. Using the ThriveAbility meta template, we seek insights into new ways and means, respecting that we don't have the answer. We are prepared to go and find answers that work across all aspects of life. We consider and engineer the biological, psychological, cultural, social, and ecological aspects of our collective thrival, moving from possibility toward probability, living thrilling yet ecologically sound lives. To remove the barriers is the fifth condition. Here we need to distinguish between the external, the cultural and social barriers, and the internal barriers that we carry in our minds. A critical mass of ThriveAbility pioneers, we believe, will enable us to influence large-scale social change through solutions that are beneficial, addressing external barriers through demonstrable success. We are in the business of demand-led change. ThriveAbility pioneers work with themselves in a truly integral manner. It starts with me is the maxim of the ThriveAbility journey. They work with themselves in a truly integral manner to overcome internal barriers, to be aware of their own emergence. Last but not least, condition 6, consolidation and support. It takes time to lead quality inner and outer change. The ThriveAbility pathway is designed to assist in the consolidation and generalization of what is successful whilst also beneficial. This is a long-term pathway, a journey of experiential learning. It's a means by which our new awareness can be utilized in the company of others who are aligned and are aspiring to shared ideals on a new way forward. This is a journey that is applicable to all levels, from the individual, families, communities, right up to organisational, national and global levels. This is a long-term pathway of living ThriveAbility, with full awareness that ultimately, as beneficial leaders, all life is in our hands. And I'm going to pass now to Sheila.
Thank you, Christopher. We have 4 questions now for you to reflect on what you've learned so far today about ThriveAbility. So please answer in these chat pods here. So what stands out from the session today? And you can respond in the little white space right below that question. And then what is the most challenging aspect of ThriveAbility? Number 3, what do you need to learn more about in order to be more effective in your role? And what are you encouraged to do differently in your role? And again, when you're complete with those 4, please show a green check mark. Okay, I'm just going to read some of these here. And if you want to be able to see all of them, you can scroll through them using the scroll bar on the right of these. I'm going to read the challenging aspects of thrivability, the courage for both integration and disruption, deep set paradigm of sustainability, validating this connection between the personal and the systemic, which is often viewed as a new agey woo-woo, also getting society and organizations to understand current overshoot of carrying capacity, getting a mass of people on board, psychology, building a global consensus, measurement, especially getting the players and measurements of all sorts to agree on a form of consolidation, pulling together a leadership team. It shouldn't be called that. Thrivability is what those of us who've been leading sustainability have been seeking to bring about, taking initiatives. Christopher, what would you say about how these contribute to the thrivability journey?
All of these themes are themes that we invite and look forward to engaging in the thrivability journey. Every question and every challenge that's been highlighted here is true, and we do need to find a way of addressing these. So, for example, the courage for both integration and disruption, it's managing the balance between the chaos and order, the chaotic transitions that Robin spoke about. And these are things that we need to learn about. And there on my screen at the moment, looking at the deep set paradigm of sustainability, realizing that a lot of great work has been done in the paradigm of sustainability. But as Dwayne Elgin once said, that if we just pursue sustainability, we're actually promoting nothing more than a living death. So the thrivability journey invites us to move beyond the present language and redefine the terminology to suit us as we move forward and celebrate what we've achieved whilst we move on and apply meaningful solutions. And I really, my eye inevitably is drawn to the large piece, the large challenge here is validating this connection between the personal and the systemic, which is often viewed as a new agey woo-woo. Yes, it's an area that we're fully familiar with, but also we realise that we are the earth, and separation of ourselves from the planet that we live on is just a temporary aberration as we work out how to engage and move forward viably. These are all aspects that the thrivability story will aim to support, and not so much about building consensus itself, but about building consensus over a story that moves us forward. I think that will be the most compelling and significant role that the thrivability journey, embedding thrivability journey, will bring to us all. So I'm conscious of time, Sheila, and I'm going to pass it back to you.
Thank you, Christopher. And lastly, we have Ralph Thurm, who's going to give you an invitation. You can unmute Ralph, please. Ralph, we're going to unmute you here. You should be ready.
All right, thank you very much, Sheila. Hello, everybody, wherever you are on this planet. Good morning, good afternoon. What I like to do is that I just like to wrap up what we have already heard from Chris and Sheila in a little bit different way. Well, first of all, I've been involved in sustainability for more than 20 years now. And what I realized a couple of years ago, and that led me also to work together with Chris and Sheila and with Robin, is that having worked for a major multinational, having worked for an organization like the GRI in a senior role for many years, having worked for one of the big consultancies for many years, is that we all focused on the support system and the structures of sustainability. So this is our sustainability initiatives thus far have focused on improving and transforming support systems, the methods, the models, but all in an existing economic paradigm. And there are two things that we have actually failed with. One is really to connect what we are doing, the micro performance of organizations, towards the major urgencies. For example, looking at the macroeconomic thinking. There was a lot of development around, for example, the question, You know, how do we need to improve GDP or have to come away from GDP? And at the Meta system, we were talking about, you know, sustainability reporting and all of that. But what we have failed to do is to connect those two. And that is what I call the sustainability context gap. And I know Bill Bauer, who's also on the call, will cry out, hooray now, because that is exactly one of the big failures that we have seen so far. So the ThriveAbility consortium and the way how we work try to bring those two back together. The other thing that we have failed to connect with is the support level and the individual. And a lot of what you heard from Christopher about beneficial leadership, and that, you know, we need to start with the individual, are just a signpost of that failure. And again, we want to move that discussion into the ThriveAbility consortium workshops as well. So I think this is a quite good picture to show how we start to reconnect some of the areas that were disconnected and try to build that into the ThriveAbility equation. If we now move into the offer that we have for you, the invitation that we have. Well, first of all, why should you be a ThriveAbility pioneer? We do think that ThriveAbility is everybody's business. So from that perspective, it's an open invitation. You know, you've heard from Christopher, it all starts with us personally. So here's an open invitation for you, for your own personal journey to take part. What we try to aim for in the ThriveAbility consortium is also that we want to become an unstoppable community of edge walkers. That is, you know, we want to be at the forefront, and we want to be those who drive change as well. We also think that ThriveAbility and the offer that we have is something that is irresistibly transformative. You know, it's, you know, when we look at the different quadrants of the ThriveAbility diamond that we've seen from Robin, and I've been going through that many, many times with the people. It is something that really attracts people, and where they say, yes, this is actually what we really need to do. And what we also try to do by combining, by synergizing, by condensing, and by simplifying what seemed to be complex in the past, you know, we want to try to use ThriveAbility as an idea that leads to exponentially synergistic outcomes. You know, we want to move from complexity as it is seen and what holds people back into what we call simplexity, the other side of complexity, really. So that is the invitation to be a member of the ThriveAbility consortium. So now looking into what we're actually going to cover in our programs, and the next one actually, as Robin has already mentioned, in Amsterdam from the 11th to the 13th of December, are the following 8 topics. So first of all, we look at the origins of ThriveAbility. What are really the roots of ThriveAbility? How do we come from sustainability, the ability to sustain, which is a sort of Damocles amongst the heads of people, not very exciting, to something else that gives us back the ability to thrive as an individual, but also as an organization. Then moving to the conscious economy. You know, the questions that we try to answer here are, for example, how fast can we transition from an unsustainable, high-stress, linear economy powered by fear, by fossil fuels and materialism, to a thriving circular economy powered by caring, renewable energy, and conscious enterprise. So this is what we're going to cover here. Then we will look at how we come from viability to ThriveAbility. You know, what makes ThriveAbility radically different from sustainability? And you heard Robin talking about the aspect of flourishing, something that takes into account both aspects of human well-being as well as planetary boundaries. Then we look at a fourth program topic: incremental versus breakthrough change and innovation. So why are breakthroughs really critical, and how can the ThriveAbility approach make breakthroughs the norm? Because that is actually what we want to come up with, you know, make breakthroughs the norm. We will also need to look at business ecosystems and modeling. So how can business model design, using strongly sustainable business models, be a force for radical change? So how can we further develop the existing canvas that business models are normally built on, into something which is a strongly sustainable business model. We'll also focus on beneficial leadership. That has already been mentioned by Chris in more depth. How can you lead your organization from this chaotic zone into the bridging zone where breakthroughs really become the norm? And we also need to look at how do we measure thrivability. So why do we need to move beyond integrated reporting, for example, or sustainability reporting as we know it, to thrivability reporting and its modeling? And I think what you've seen already, the picture of the 4 quadrants, give us the basic frame for a dashboard that we can think of, for us personally, but also for organizations, possibly also for regions, for different parts of the world. And then finally, we want to look at methods, frameworks, and tools. How can those methods and tools that are already used in organizations provide a solid foundation for breakthroughs? And Robin also shared with you that whole plethora of already existing tools and methods. And what we need is to simplify them, but we also need to come together and condense them into something that makes thrivability not another level of complexity, but that we use the brilliant complexity that we are able to offer. So these are the 8 program topics that we're going through in the workshops. So here's an invitation for you. These are the program dates. We want to do our next program in Amsterdam from the 11th to the 13th of December. I'm very glad to announce that it's hosted in the headquarters of ABN AMRO. And what we also want to offer you, for those of you who have been in the webinar today, and those who also join us tomorrow, we want to offer a 10% special discount for you as participants. Just when you register, use the code THRIVE, and you get a 10% discount for that. You also see that we're also planning already our dates for programs in 2014. The first one is planned for March 5 to 7 in London. And there's another one, June 4 to 6 in Berlin, September 8 to 10 in Tallinn, and December 10 to 12 in Istanbul. And well, as we know, there are many people also from the US and also from India here on the call. If you want to invite us to do one of the workshops or one of the programs also in your place, in your country, please get in touch with us. We will be more than happy to discuss the opportunities with you. What we also want to do in 2014, starting in April, is a virtual program that will go through the different modules of thrivability as well. We will start that in April. It will go through the whole month of April and the whole month of May. Finally, some of you already have seen us on LinkedIn. Some of you are also part of the LinkedIn group. You also find us on Facebook. So there are plenty of opportunities to get in touch with us and to keep up to date with what we're doing in the Thrivability Consortium. Last but not least, what I also would like to do is to draw your attention here to some of the files that we can offer. Embedding Thriveability, there's the brochure, the program brochure for the December meeting that is downloadable from www.embeddingthriveability.org. And there's also the report on Embedding Thriveability, which is a summary of the first workshops that we've done in London and in Perpignan. So this is also already at your hands, just 2 or 3 clicks away. So that is what I wanted to mention, and I'll hand back to Sheila.
Thank you, Ralph. So we just have a few last questions for you. Please indicate your interest to attend any of these Embedding Thriveability events, including the virtual event. And then if you know someone else who needs to attend an Embedding Thriveability program, please list their information there, and know that we've got another session tomorrow. We'll be repeating this session tomorrow. And if you'd be interested in becoming a Thriveability intern, or if you know somebody who would be, please let us know that in the 3rd box at the bottom. We need interns to be the eyes and ears of Thriveability and to support our consortium through social media. And interns will get free passes to all of our events. And if you're interested in joining the Thriveability Consortium, please let us know. And we want to thank everyone for their participation today. We know we don't have all the answers, but together we can find a new pathway. So please join us, and we hope to hear from you all soon. Thank you so much for your participation.